All right. I thought what we would do, I usually do kind of I get to know one another first, but I'm going to go over the class and the syllabus first because in career, the get to know each other exercise might take a little longer than just like what's your spirit animal or two truths and a lie. But you can think about this while I'm talking about the class. So what we're going to share with each other, and it doesn't matter how long it takes, because I only have one lecture tonight rather than two. So we'll have plenty of time. But what I want you to think about is what brought you to this point in your life for your career journey. So, I never thought I would be sitting here as a counseling professor when I was younger. I had a whole journey with twists and turns, and fortunately, I found something I love. But not everybody does. So hopefully you have, but I'd like to hear about your journey. Like, what are some of the things that maybe changed your path in a different direction to eventually end up here? Did you go through times in your life that maybe you weren't happy with your job or your career journey? So I just kind of want to hear about the twists and turns, the influences, the good paths, the things you didn't like, and how you ended up, deciding on this path. And then the second part is much shorter. I just want to hear about where you'd like to end up. Like after you graduate, what would your ideal job as a counselor be? Would you like to work with a certain population? Would you like to work in a certain area? School counseling, clinical mental health, private practice. Maybe you'd like to work at a university. Maybe you'd like to go on and teach. But so there's two parts. The long part is what got you here, and maybe you had never planned to be here yourselves. Maybe you just figured it out along the way. And then the second part is where do you want to end up? And you're almost there. So, and just, everybody probably knows each other, but introduce yourselves with your name and what program you're in. You might want to share how long till you graduate. Are you going to graduate soon, or do you have a little ways to go? So you can think about that while I talk about the class and the syllabus and how we're going to squeeze 15 weeks into 7 weeks. And don't worry, it's not by doing twice as much in a short amount of time. I changed some things. So one of the things you'll notice is that because it's half the time, they want us to spend twice as much time each week. But 5 to 9:30 is an excessive amount of time. And 9:30's, even though I do it in the other 2 semesters for 7:00 classes, it's pretty late to be driving home in the summer. So here's what I thought, and you can give me your feedback. I usually give one lecture and then we have some kind of activity or discussion during the regular semester. So what I thought I would do is I would give you one lecture and then we'll talk about it and we'll take a break. Then I'll give you a second lecture, we'll talk about it, and we might have a short activity. Like when you create some videos with a partner, we'll watch the videos, you know. But that won't take us all the way till 9:30, you know. That'll probably be about 2.5 hours. But we're still responsible for that other time. So one of the things I thought might be helpful to you would be doing 4 discussion boards. And so it's not even 7, it's 4. I don't want you to have to do a discussion board the week you have to write your paper, you know, or things like that. But you can use the discussion board if you do it well for your final paper. So for instance, like your final paper is really applying some of the career theories to your own journey. Okay, so what each discussion board is, if I give a lecture on a career theory, you just apply that to your own life and your career journey, just one theory at a time. And so, you know, like a page. It's not like a whole paper or anything like that. But that would be 5 points each discussion board. So 20 points. There's only 100 points for the semester. But then I thought, you know, if you did take the time to write a good discussion board, you'd be allowed to take that and put it in your final paper. So I think that would be helpful as well. Okay. So the whole point of this class, you know, we had career class, you know, in 1993, and you know, they would wheel in, my professor would wheel in Dr. Civarelli. I still remember him. He would wheel in a big library cart with 20 or 30 volumes of, you know, big 3-inch books. And we'd have to look up career codes and look at the Occupational Outlook Handbook and the Dictionary of Occupational Titles. And it was labor intensive for every career we wanted to look up. And then they cross-referenced them, gave us a list of other possibilities we might not know about. So career counseling was labor intensive, time consuming. However, today, everything is on the internet. So it's very different now. And they have so much more information that we didn't have. So for instance, they're very precise about which fields are growing, which fields are slowing, what maybe if one field is kind of slowing down, what field is taking its place. So maybe one field got replaced with a similar one, but they use computer technology, you know, instead of the old methods. So we're going to teach you all those methods. But you know, not only did I have to walk 3 miles in the snow uphill, but I had to use books on a cart. But you'll get your answers instantaneously. So let's see. So the whole goal of this is to help individuals transcend their dichotomies. So what I mean by that, dichotomies are opposites, things at opposite ends. And when we're talking about work, the average American goes to work 40 hours, maybe 50 or more a week. When you think about how much of that your waking life that takes up, that's a substantial amount. And very few people say they find satisfaction in their jobs or careers. So it's actually work. And then they look forward to their time off after work or on the weekend. They can spend with friends, families, do things that they truly enjoy. what our goal is to help people find meaning and purpose in their career. So people are able to take pride and find satisfaction in those 40 hours to 50 hours a week. So their work turns into play, or at least something they enjoy and find meaning and purpose in. And every now and then, students in this class will go through all the inventories on the career counseling website, and they'll figure out they don't want to be a counselor. They're like, wow, I was always meant to be a chef or something else. And that's my true love and talent. But hopefully, this will solidify your decision to become a counselor. And it might open up some other counseling possibilities for you. Like I've had students not think about counseling jobs in certain fields, like working at a prison, or working with adoption, or things like that. So you may find some new possibilities that you haven't thought about before. But hopefully it'll reinforce your decision that you made to get this education and eventually become a counselor. So I hope that sounds okay to you. We have doubled up on the lectures. So we'll get every lecture in. We'll do the same activities, but we'll be done probably 7:30-ish, 8 if we have to watch a bunch of videos. And then we'll do the online. It's on D2L. I'll post 4 discussion boards. So if you look at D2L, I'll open up 1 week at a time. On the first week, I always give you my notes, and I did not print the notes out for you, but they are on D2L. And it probably says something like Nate's notes. And Nate was our old GA. And when he took career class, he was allowed to use his GA hours to write up the notes for this class. So it benefits everybody. And I tried to help him with the notes so that they were on target. So as we move through the semester, the theoretical part of career counseling is the most important part, because that's the part that's everywhere on your comps and your NCE. And that's what I took the notes on. So the notes aren't on the entire book. They're just on the theories, because that's the part you have to memorize for the comps and the NCE. On the last week, one year we had students make PowerPoints for each chapter. There's 42 chapters or something like that. So we have most of the important chapters. We skipped a few, but we do have a PowerPoint on every chapter. And I'll open that up a little later. So let's talk about the syllabus and what's going to happen. 7 weeks will fly by. And, you know, when there's a 15-week semester, you can, I'm not going to use the word procrastinate, but students can take more time to get projects done. But in a 7-week course, you can't wait to begin projects. So let's look at the syllabus a little bit. So you can read the course description yourself, but my goal is for you to be able to pass this section of the comps in the NCE, for you to be able to have enough knowledge and be able to apply that knowledge that if you did an internship at the Career Center, you'd be able to jump right into it and counsel somebody in career counseling. And a lot of people who take this class never thought that they wanted to be a career counselor, but they ended up wanting to go into career counseling. Here, throw your phone numbers down on there so I know you're here.
They were locked out. They locked the door.
We got here at 5:03 and we had to call security. I tried to email.
See, you're gonna be here early next time.
Didn't even know it was a class in time, so they always lock the doors, I guess.
Well, we will probably, I'll email you when I find a new room, but it's like, 90 degrees in here. So we're gonna try to move to another classroom. So we just started talking a little bit about the syllabus and, goals. You have the notes on D2L, so they will be your study guide for the comps and the NCE. You should memorize those notes. They are only on the first section of the book, which is the theory section. But believe it or not, so every year I ask students who took the comps and the NCE about each section. And for the past 3 or 4 years, they've told me that careers were everywhere. There was a lot of career questions on the comps and the NCE. My struggle with studying for the comps and the NCE in career is that the theories are very similar. So it's not just memorizing the theories, it's being able to differentiate the theory and the theorist. So they'll give you something from a theory and they'll give you A, B, C, D and 4 theorists' names. Which theorist was this? So, that's what you're going to have to do. They'll give you an example of the client and an example from a theory, and they'll say, which theorist was this? So it's kind of tough matching the theorist up with the theory or the name of the theory up with an example. But that's what you need to be able to do. And then the second thing, you should be able to do an internship at a career center, get a job at a career center after this. You should be familiar enough with all of the tools that you would be prepared to do that. And the third thing is that you're going to do 2 applications of career theory. You're going to work with a partner and be their career counselor. And then for the final paper, you're going to apply all these theories to yourself because you know yourself best, you know your career journey, and you're going to take all the inventories over at the Career Center online. So you'll apply these skills and techniques to somebody else and then to yourself. So I think by the time you're done that, you'll know the skills and techniques pretty well. All right, the book. So I have, let's see, I think 5 or 6 career books out now. And this is the second edition of the final textbook. We're contracted to complete the 3rd edition next year. Only it used to be very affordable. Now it's kind of expensive. The ebook is the cheapest. But what they what they'd like me to do is to cut it from 42 chapters to like 22 chapters and pick out all the most important things and get rid of all they would call it fluff. I would call it additional learning material. And so it'll be about, the next one will be about half as big. The one thing that the new book will have, two things that this one doesn't have. One will be a chapter on all the new technology and doing career counseling like online, and all of the new programs that they have, the online inventories and things like that. You're going to be using them, but there's not a chapter on them yet. And the second chapter that's not in here was written by Alex Pepper, previous student, and our GA, her name was Madison. And what it is at counseling people who are athletes, because so many, if you think about it, you may have an athletic person who really excelled in high school, but maybe they got injured and couldn't go on competitively and do whatever their sport is for a living. Or maybe they competed in college and they didn't get picked up by a professional team. Or maybe, they weren't competitive enough, but that was still their dream. So that's really a loss that we need to work with. It's part of what they see as their personal identity. But there's more to every individual than one thing. So we need to help them see themselves in a variety of ways beyond that one sport. And there's a lot of other options. There's also the grief and loss of losing a dream. And, so as a school counselor, I've had so many students dream of being a basketball star, a football star, something like that. And out of thousands and thousands of kids, I've only had one who was picked up by the Bengals and became a professional football player. Yeah, he did excel. And then, but all the rest, the one thing as a counselor that I did was I never took away their dream. I always supported their dream, because you never know. I don't care what their dream is. It might be to be an athlete, it might be to be an artist, it might be a singer or performer. Never take away their dream. However, you can help them have a backup plan with something they would also enjoy and find meaningful. So, all we're doing is giving them additional options in other areas that they might also find meaningful. But we're never taking away their original dream. We're supporting them in that as well. So you might think, oh, Grafton's just making us buy his book to make some money. But no, it makes very little money. And I donate all the money from Penn West Cal U to student scholarships at Penn West Cal U. So I don't make anything from my own classes. I make a little bit from other university classes, but not Penn West Cal U. Okay, so there is a lot of reading, but it's not complicated. None of it's complicated. So it's really, you can just sit down and read a chapter in your spare time. And the only things you have to memorize are the chapters in section 1. And those are on the theories because they're going to be on your comps and the NCE. The rest are informational. You're going to use what they talk about, but you don't have to memorize what they talk about. All right. I gave you, they do have they ordered the book at the bookstore. Hopefully they got it in. But I gave you a link. You could use Amazon. You could go directly to the publisher. But they do have a fairly inexpensive ebook that you can download immediately and look at it on Kindle or a computer or something like that. I'm getting to like ebooks more because you can do an electronic search for a topic or a word or something like that. So it's a lot easier to find things using ebooks. If I'm reading a novel, I still want it to be paper, but textbooks, ebooks aren't too bad. And they're like a quarter or a third of the price. Okay, so the next part of the syllabus is just KCREP requirements that we fulfill. That's like 2 or 3 pages. You can read them at your leisure. The department adopted a grading rubric, A to F. It's got like A-, B+, all of that. A lot of students worry because I've got a 4.0. What if I get an A-? So first of all, when I was in my master's, I had a 4.0. And one crazy professor gave me an A-. I know their name. I'm not going to say it. But after that, I didn't have the pressure, of maintaining a 4.0. So, you may want an A- to relieve that pressure. No, and in my classes, the deal is, you get to redo anything that you don't do well on, not so that you can get an A, it's so that you can master the material. So my goal is, for you to master all of the career counseling techniques that you might need. And if it takes, redoing a video or rewriting a paper or redoing a discussion board, you can do that until you get it, right. So that should take some pressure off you. If you're worried about grades, I'm more worried about graduating competent counselors. It's almost like, I use this example every class, but imagine going to a surgeon and, you broke your leg, but that's the class they got to be in, so yeah. So it's more about mastery learning than a grade. I've talked with other professors and they adhere to like the bell curve, and they have, the average grade is like 80%, and they've got some 70%, and they've got some 100%. And I'm talking with them about outcomes because I used to be on the outcomes committee for the university. And they say, look at this. This is like a perfect bell curve for my grading. And, or they'd say 70% pass the state certification exam. And they're proud of, they call that success. But when I was on the outcomes committee for the university, my question always was, that's too bad. What are you going to do to help that 30% who didn't pass? How are they going to master this knowledge? How can you improve your teaching so that everybody can be successful. And they're like, well, what were your grades like? Everybody got an A, and I'm pretty excited about that. They're like, oh, you're an easy teacher. Well, some might disagree with that, but all right. So that's the grades. All right. So I'm just going to talk briefly about your assignments just to give you an overview. But I'm going to invite Emma Jackson over to talk with our class, because I'm sure there's a lot of changes at the Career Center. And you're going to be taking all of the career inventories through our Career Center. So she's going to describe all that, and we're going to watch sample videos, to show you what a video should be like that you're going to create with your partner. And it looks like right now we have an even amount of people. So 8, perfect. So try to read the chapters, beforehand so you can ask me questions. Your biggest project for the class is called, career counseling sessions, and you're going to make a video. And so you'll get with a partner, and there's 3 parts. So the first part, you'll have 3 sections to your video. You could do it in 3 videos if you want, but you could do them one right after another. You could link them together, whatever you want. But 3 technical sessions. And the first session is a student will interview the other student. And that's kind of like, it's like the career counseling intake or assessment. And you're getting to know the other person, you're understanding their background, what they're looking for in career counseling, what some of their abilities, interests, experience, hobbies, goals might be. You'll demonstrate some techniques and topics that we'll teach you in class. So that's really the introductory session. And then you'll end that session with, okay, well, it's nice getting to know you. I'm going to ask that you take these career inventories, and you'll just tell them the names of each of them, and then they'll come back for the second session. And in the second session, you're going to go over those career assessments, those inventories with your partner. And you're going to talk about the results with them and what you found out. And that's going to be the longest part. It takes a long time to go through these career inventories. There's a lot of information. Now, before we became Penn West, they were called the Focus 2 and the 16 personalities. And the 16 personalities were really based on the Myers-Briggs personality inventory. And I think every good counselor, once you've taken that, remembers their letters. I'm INFJ. That's a rare one. That's under 3% of the population has INFJ. But then you'll describe what each of those letters stands for and how it fits the individual. So you'll come up with some results after taking those inventories, and you'll narrow down possibilities for the client. The big thing about these inventories is that I don't want you to memorize all the results, but you should be able to put the results in your own words. You shouldn't be reading for 30 minutes to the client. You should be able to maybe look at a result with them and then kind of be free to explain what it means to the client. You also need to apply a couple theories that you think fit the client. Strong and Holland, that's what most people use. And they're the classic career theorists. And then the last session, you're going to take all that stuff you found out through the assessments, and you're going to look at some of the career resources that now you can get on the internet, and you're going to share the occupational outlook handbook, the dictionary of occupational titles, and a lot of other results that will show whether a type of career is growing, if it's growing in certain areas of the country and not others. You may show them other possibilities that are related, but they're different careers. And you're this whole time, it's not just you talking, you're asking the client, what do you think about that? Does that fit you? Does that fit your personality? What do you think it would be like going into that career? Do you think that would be something you found meaningful, or is it something you wouldn't be interested in? So you're always getting feedback from the client if you're moving in the right direction. And the last part of that section 3 is if you are able to narrow it down to 1 or 2 future careers, you're going to find out, well, what's it going to take to break into that career? Do you need another degree? Do you need to go back to school? Do you need special training? Do you need a license? Do you need a certificate? Are there schools in the area if the person can't move? Is this education or training available locally? Would they qualify? Would they be accepted to these schools? What's the cost for schooling? There's a big difference between cost of Duquesne and cost of Penn West. So are there graduate assistantships available? Are there scholarships available? Things like that. So that's the final step. Rather than just letting them know about a career, how are they going to get that career? And then you can do a follow-up later on, but that's really the end of your video, those 3 sessions. We're going to go into more detail. We're going to watch sample videos. I just wanted to give you an overview of what you'll be doing. That's your big project. All right. And like I said, you're going to have 4 discussion boards. But you're going to be applying those theories and the discussion boards to your own career journey. And if you do it well, you'll be able to cut and paste what you wrote in the discussion boards into your final paper, because that's what your final paper's on. You're going to create a resume, and the final paper is basically the same as your video, only you're the client. So you're not going to be working with a partner. You're going to be talking about your own results and looking up the Occupational Outlook Handbook. You should have all the answers because your partner just did it for you. So it's all connected in this class. So pay attention to what your partner found out and apply it to yourself. But that's the final paper. All of these things build on each other. And I think that's it for your assignments. So the assignments, they take a lot of time. They're big assignments, but there's only 2 big ones and 4 small discussion boards. So I think it's manageable in a 7-week period of time. Let's look at if you have a disability. I'd be happy to accommodate you. I don't think there's any way to cheat or perjure in this class because it's also individual. It's all applied. And then let's just look at the tentative schedule once I find it. Okay, so it says tentative course schedule. And basically, I'm just going to give you 2 lectures instead of 1. And you'll notice that week 5 is when that big counseling video is due. And we'll have a Dropbox for it. So next week, either Emma will come here or she'll be on Zoom or I'll record her. But you'll be able to start taking the inventories after next week. And then the other big assignment is on week 7, and you kind of, you'll create a resume, you'll write your final paper, put it in the Dropbox. I will have a lecture the last night, but the second half, you'll just share your papers with the class and talk about your career journey and what you found out. Discussion boards, I tried to put on nights when things were not due. So week 3, week 4, week 6, yeah, next week. So basically I tried to do them on nights that we had theories, career theory, and then one more on week 6. And that should be it for the discussion board. Discussion boards, we're looking for like 1 page typed, put it on the discussion board, read your classmates and respond to 2 of your classmates, you know, give them some feedback. So usually I want to go over the theory first. So, you know, I'll probably open the discussion board and everything, you know, Monday or Tuesday. We'll do the lecture on Tuesday. Discussion board will probably do Friday or Saturday, feedback by Sunday. I'll grade it and read it the next week. So that's probably how the discussion boards will work. All right. Questions about the syllabus? The assignments are pretty straightforward. All right, so we're going to take a break. But when we come back, you're going to talk about kind of all the twists and turns and what led each of you to this time in your career development. The decision to go back to school, it's a major investment of money and time and energy. So it's a pretty big choice. What got you to this point? And don't just say, well, I love helping people. We know it's all a little more complicated than that, with twists and turns and maybe other careers in your past. Like I said, I never thought I would end up as a counselor. But I'll share a little bit about my own, and not a lot. You've probably all heard it before in other classes. But then each of you can take a turn, and then we'll see how much time we have left. And I already have a previous lecture on the history, and history doesn't change. So there's already a lecture open on the history. But if we have time, I'd rather give you a live lecture. All right, so let's take a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back. Maybe you can go outside and it'll be cooler there.